Hi, Georgia. How are you? And welcome to the podcast.
Hi. So, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you? How's your day been?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. Just a busy work day, but otherwise, all good.
Yeah, of course. Are you on the clock at the moment or?
Yeah, I technically am doing this over lunch break, trying to fit it in
Oh,
between meetings, but all good.
oh, well, thank you so much for joining us today and
Oh, you're
really
welcome.
appreciate it. And I guess if we kind of kick things off for anyone who doesn't already know, would you be able to introduce yourself as an athlete?
Yeah, definitely. So, my name's Georgia Bell. I am a runner turned cyclist, I guess. So, I'm a duathlete, which is a bit of a mix of the two. My background is in track, which is what I've gone back to over the past kind of 6 months to a year. But also have represented Great Britain at World Champs for duathlon. So yeah, that's how I'd categorize myself as an athlete.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, really exciting and your progress with the duathlon's been, really quick, straight in at the top there for you, which is brilliant. And so what would you say has been your biggest lesson learned from sports so far? Going in with the big ones.
Going straight in. I would say my biggest lesson that I've learned from sport is just the idea, I think, of delayed gratification, the fact that things don't come overnight. You have to work at something quite consistently, and that is what produces results eventually, which I think is kind of what's happening with me at the moment. Has been the fitness that I'm having now has been the result of a few years without injuries and introducing new things into training, and it's coming to a point now. But I think, yeah, being an athlete at a young age means that you kind of know that you have to put in the work to see results, which, yeah, is probably the biggest learning I've had.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's such an essential point there. Delayed gratification definitely, really is so, so important in sport, especially one like running. And
Yeah.
what's your next biggest goal or thing that you're looking to achieve?
So I'm doing an indoor season at the moment for track. So I kicked that off in December. The immediate goal is to try and run the world indoor qualifying standard for the 1500 meters. So I've run it on the outdoor circuit, but you need to do it again in the indoors within this time frame. So I've got a couple of shots at racing across Europe over the next few weeks to try and get that.
And just to put in a side note, since the recording of this episode, so it's been about 2 weeks, Georgia has actually achieved this, absolutely smashed out the park, to be perfectly honest. She's got a world lead, a meeting record, a world qualifying time, and a 3 second PB with a 4:03 in Germany. So back to the episode.
And then going into British Champs in mid-February, trying to do well there will be the short-term goal.
Yeah,
And then,
definitely.
yeah, I've kind of just got my sights set on that for right now. And then obviously we'll go into a summer season of racing. There'll also be some duathlons in there as well.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the golden time that you need to run indoors?
So I have to do 406.5 is the time,
Okay.
which is I think is a lot more generous than the 3K time is. The 3K time is something insane. I think it's like 8:37. So it's like a really tough time. I'm pretty sure like maybe only Laura Muir is going to be able to run that for the 3K. Whereas for the 1500, there are quite a lot of girls who are in the mix for that kind of time or capable of running that time. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. No, well, I mean, no doubts that you can do that. And I guess that's an interesting point as well. You've got big things on the horizon for running, but also, I mean, you recently won the World Triathlon Duathlon Championships in Ibiza. So what for you is the priority? Is it running? Is it duathlon? A bit of both?
Yeah, I think this year it's going to be running actually. So last year was kind of the first time that I'd raced at kind of a more competitive level with duathlon, which I really liked. Um, the World Champs in Ibiza was great. I like scraped into qualifying for the qualifying event, so you have to come top four at the event. And I found that first race really difficult. I literally just got in by the skin of my teeth, and then changed a lot of things and prepared for it and was able to win and out in Ibiza, which was really cool. And I did enjoy that a lot, but actually then turned to do a bit of a track season, got back in contact with my old coach. And I've been following his track programs for about, yeah, coming up to a year now. And I'm just really seeing the difference being made there. So that's why I'm choosing to crack on with track, I think, for the next 6 months at least. And obviously, big year of competition, so it seems like a good year to go for it.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really exciting. It's really great that, those changes have had tangible results. And it'd be a shame, I think, not to touch on, winning at that World Championship. So can you talk us through maybe that experience? And you mentioned there some of the changes that you made leading into it. So could you touch on them as well?
Yeah, for sure. So for anyone who doesn't know, duathlon is essentially just cutting out the swimming that you get in a triathlon. So it starts, I do the kind of standard distance. So it starts with a 10K run, and then it's about a 40K bike, and then it finishes with a 5K run. So I'm definitely a stronger runner. So that's my strength. I think going into the trial race, I was just doing it on a road bike, which lots of people who race are on proper time trial bikes, which is just a faster bike. It's more aerodynamic, and the gains that you can make from a time perspective are quite significant. So then over the next couple of months in the run up to Ibiza, I started practicing on time trial bars and getting really comfortable with that kind of racing, which yeah made the difference. But it was a really fun day. It was a good race as well because I I had the lead on the run when I came in and finished that 10K. And then I was just waiting to be caught the whole time on the cycle because I knew there were much stronger cyclists than me. And I basically did get caught. We left the transition from the cycle with this Polish girl right next to me. So it was like a good race. But then I managed to just pull away on the 5K at the end, which was good. It was a great day. The one thing that will annoy me for probably the rest of my life is that they forgot to put up when you cross the line and they have the tape and you kind of run through it. So they had it positioned there, and yeah, so some guy just made the wrong call. He didn't know if I was the first one or the second one, so they just didn't pull it up. So I could see it there on the floor, but yeah, it was like a slow motion thing that didn't happen. So bar that, it was a really fun day. And yeah, racing, adding a new element to racing by adding in cycling, mixing an old sport with a new sport is just had a whole new novelty to it, which is really fun.
No, that's great to hear, but that is a shame about the finishing tape. That is very
No,
unfortunate.
I
You just gotta have
know.
to win another one, really.
I know that's honestly good motivation because I really want that feeling of crossing through the tape. So yeah, hopefully another time I'll be able to get that.
Yeah, exactly. Gotta make that one a reality. And you
Yeah.
mentioned there enjoying the novelty of it all with the new sport, old sport. There's a couple of things. I mean, what got you into the cycling? And also, I mean, your junior history was mainly, success in say the 800 and stuff, and 10K, 5K is a lot longer. I mean, at Telford, you recently ran that 32:22, ninth in the UK with the 10K. So quite a few changes.
Yeah, quite a few changes. So I think I started, kind of got into running in a standard process, I think, like at sports day, did quite well on the day, and then one of the parents gets you down to a local club, and then you just go into that kind of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday club system. So background was very much in running. Then cycling came in quite like later in life, like I got into it in lockdown, so a couple of years ago. That was really as an approach to stop getting injured. So I'd just quite consistently get shin splints if I do over kind of 30 miles per week with running. And my fiance is a cyclist, so he was like, get a time trial bike, or sorry, just get a bike, and we can go out for cycles. So he kind of pushed me into it. But cycling is a good sport if you're already an athlete. It's one that translates quite well There's lots of people that get into cycling who are former rowers or runners, and so it's just quite a nice sport to pick up. And yeah, that's how it kind of began with cycling.
Oh,
And
no.
then yeah, now moving up into the longer distances. I know I used to always think of myself as a bit of a short distance runner, like the 800, shorter distance, I should say. But yeah, I've just been really enjoying actually the longer stuff with the 5Ks and the 10Ks. My endurance has just got better as I've got older. And yeah, I still think 1500 meters is the best event though. What do you think?
Ooh, I don't know. It is a nice one. I mean, you've got a nice amount of tactics going on there, but
Yeah.
I feel like something like the 10K, you can sort of just sit and plod, and you get better value for money as well. If you travel far, you're racing for longer.
That's true. That is true. I mean, did you race at the Telford Kente or
Yeah, I
yeah,
did.
how
I
did you
did.
find it?
Muddy.
Yeah.
It was my first 10K, but yeah, it was really nice actually. Just so many people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very muddy, wasn't it? It was like a cross country. I had brand new white trainers going
Yeah.
into it and they were completely ruined by the end, but oh well, worth it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, definitely. And totally worth it for yourself. I mean, that was an absolutely incredible win. And so yeah, how did you find it?
Yeah, it was I really enjoyed it actually. Like I do
Yeah.
like road races because you just have it's not just 10K on a track I reckon would be very hard. I haven't done that yet.
Mm.
So 10K on the road is more fun. There's a bit more change in what you're looking at. And I knew that I was feeling quite fit. I'd just come off the back of 10 days training out in South Africa, and that race was a couple of days later. So was feeling just happy with how training was going, and the there was a girl that kind of really pushed on the pace with about, I think after about 2K,
Mm.
3K, she really pushed on the pace. And I had to make quite a split decision about whether I was going to go with that and be brave, or just be a bit more reserved, because we came through the 5K mark at 16 dead. So I was like, ooh, like this is quick. But luckily I was just able to hang on. And then one of my friends was just there at the finish with about 100 meters to go, and he just went mental, like cheering me on. And so I just did like a really big sprint and managed to just take the win, which was yeah, really good fun. A really fun day out, muddy but enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and it was an incredible run, and it placed you ninth overall on the UK ranking list as well. Was that something you were expecting?
No, I hadn't done too many 10Ks before. So I was going in hoping for a PB, but I didn't really know what was a good 10K time or anything like that for the kind of fastest girls in the UK. So yeah, it was a really good day. I was happy with the result.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, 32:22, that is not a time to be sneezed at either. And so you mentioned there as well going through the 5K and 16 dead. And, obviously you've got the 15:39 on track in terms of the 5K, but would getting something down on paper for 5K road be on your agenda for this season?
Yeah, I'd be up for a 5K road race. I know there are some good ones. I'm actually doing the Armagh 3K road race in February, which is meant to be a really fun and fast race. So yeah, I'm open to doing some more road running.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a nice atmosphere, especially with some of the kind of new events that are coming out and, the podiums and things that are going on there.
Yeah.
And so I guess if we roll back a little bit, you had a lot of junior success. For anyone who doesn't know, Georgia was ranked UK number one as under 15, under 17 in the 800, amongst lots of other, big successes. Looking back on it now, what do you think that experience kind of or how do you think that experience impacted you as an athlete? Maybe some of the things you went on to do and how you felt about the sport at the time?
Yeah, so those were the glory days. Back when I was like 14, 15, I think. Um yeah, it was obviously a really amazing experience to have that when you're young. I think there were good and bad sides to it. So I think the downside is that if you have a lot of success when you're young, it can, going back to what I said about the delayed gratification earlier, I think I kind of took that for granted, being there's only so much training you can do when you're about 14, 15. And so if you are winning at that age, you just kind of think that that's the standard that you should be capable of doing. So as you get older and people get better and are putting in maybe the same amount of work, it's a bit of a harsh realization when you start getting beaten. Like I think one year I won English schools, and then the next year, like I just scraped the final and came last. So it's a very measurable thing to see the difference. Um, on the other side of it, though, I think it's just really good for young teenagers for gaining confidence. So I think outside of running, by having that experience of doing well in sport, just gave me an element of confidence in like work or school or relationships, that you kind of know your worth a little bit, which I think is quite valuable and something that in the future, whenever I do decide to have kids, that's something that I'd love them to have, because I just think it's something that translates into the wider world, which is a nice thing for you to go into the world with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like running really can be a bit of a metaphor for life. And I know, yeah, for me as well, definitely was a massive confidence booster around that time. But I don't know if you ever had any experiences where maybe, as you mentioned, it became a little bit more challenging to just sort of have that success. Did you then feel, I guess, that it affected your identity or your self-worth at any point?
Yeah, definitely. I think like when you grow up as a young athlete and you identify as an athlete and you're always, spending your weekends racing, and that's how people kind of know you. Like I'm one of three girls, and whenever we had family events, everyone would say like, "Oh, you're the sporty one." So like it is a big part of your identity. Um, it definitely then when you have periods of time where you stopped running. So I had a big break from running when I graduated from university in the US. I just basically stopped the sport for I don't know how many years, and it's only been the last few that I've come back. So it is a bit of a weird phase when you have gone so long as seeing yourself as an athlete, but then you stop. Um, I think, yeah, just growing older, I think you learn to really appreciate the sport, and I just feel thankful that I've come back to it in this way. I'm grateful for all the young years and that success that I had then, but I wish I had the mindset I had now when I was that age. I was just too immature, I think.
Oh yeah, hindsight mindset is a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
And no, yeah, so you mentioned, having taken a few years out after graduating from the US. And so can you fill us in on what you did then and how long that lasted for?
Yeah, so I went to go over to the US on a scholarship for track when I was 21, I think. So I went over to Berkeley for 2 years, raced and competed out there. Never ran as fast as I did in the UK. Was injured for probably 1 year out of those two. So it was always just kind of trying to find my way back to fitness. And I just remember finishing my last race as a collegiate athlete in Texas and just being like, I'm so done with this. I was just ready to just have a complete break. So I just went into the working world and yeah, did the whole corporate thing. Um, and I think, I might have gone for a run once in a while,
Mm.
but like didn't have a watch, just kind of would speak to people and say, "Oh, I used to be a runner." I kind of just envisioned myself as being one of those 50-year-old mums being like doing a marathon at that stage and saying, "Oh, I used to run when I was younger." I didn't think I would come back to it. But then just my fiance now kind of got me back into it. We would just go on some runs and cycles together. The fitness came back bit by bit, signed up for the odd kind of run through 5K, 10K, park run, started to see some gains being made. And then that's when I got back in contact with my old coach, and said, I've kind of run these times off not a lot. And like, would you be willing to work together again and start following a plan, to see if I can get back racing on the track? And luckily they said yes. And here
Yeah,
we are.
well, Yeah, it's definitely gone well. I mean, it is such an inspiration to anyone who is maybe thinking of or needing to take some time out, just being able to see how you've come back and come back to run so, so well.
I was just going to say as well, just on that, I've actually spoken, there's lots of athletes that I know as well who have done the same thing. Like they took a complete break because they just mentally a bit burnt out, like they'd lost the love for it, and then have come back to it later in life and are also running kind of the best they ever have. So it's sometimes I think a really good thing. And in hindsight, I think it was the best thing that I could have done because now like the motivation that I have and what I want to do is so fresh. And I think if I just tried to slog through it, it wouldn't be the same. So yeah, no harm in going away and then coming back if you need a bit of a break.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's so great to hear. And in terms of what you then did, I guess you say you did the whole corporate thing. Is that something that what's that meant to you, I guess, on a personal level? And how was it just completely leaving running by the side?
Yeah, I really liked it at the time. I was really ready for it and I'm still in that world. But like back then, I graduated from Berkeley, so I was working out in San Francisco for a couple of years and traveling. And there are lots of things that, you can do when you're not an athlete and you're not having to make training that you couldn't do previously. So I fully embraced it and really enjoyed it. Now it's actually more tricky trying to juggle training around corporate job, but I really enjoy it. I really like what my job and what I do. So
Yeah.
it's a massive juggling act, but yeah, works for me.
No, that's great to hear. And in terms of that juggling act, what does, I guess, a typical week look like for you then, managing the two? And in the future, is it maybe something that you'd look to go part-time or look to go fully into the professional athlete world?
Yeah, so there are conversations at the moment about that. So I'm kind of gathering options of what that professional world could look like. For me, it works quite well because my job is largely work from home. So I have flexibility around training in the morning and the evenings. I don't have to commute in, which takes, two hours out of the day. So it works at this point for now. In the future, that might change. I think there there are lots of interesting roles that you can do as a professional athlete, but from my understanding is that unless you're kind of the Laura Muirs, the Keelys of the world, you kind of have to have something else going on as well if you want to build a fan base or just get extra streams of revenue coming in. So I think there'd be quite a lot to consider if you were to kind of walk away from a job. But this is an interesting time to be having this conversation. So yeah, maybe we'll have an update if we do another podcast in 6 to 12 months. We'll see.
Yeah, no, definitely. I will follow up on that one for sure. Is it something then you'd want to do if it were feasible?
I mean, just seeing how you can live as a full-time athlete is really attractive. I've just come back from doing some time out in Poch, where most people are in South Africa training, and just seeing like the time that everyone has for recovery, nutrition, physio, like all of that stuff. Whereas me, I'm usually sprinting from one thing to the next and, trying to squeeze it all in. So there are lots of things that are really attractive about it. But I also do think one of the things that's working at the moment for me is because the pressure is off, from like a financial incentive. It means that every race is just such a fun opportunity, and that's how I see it. And I think that's translating into racing. So, um, who knows? We'll see. It depends what the offer is, I guess. But yeah, I think say for whatever reason, if I got made redundant tomorrow, I'd probably have a crack at it for a couple of years, and see. There's good parts of the pro life and there's bad parts as like any job, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always pros and cons. I guess it just depends which cons are best to deal with at that particular
Yeah.
moment in time. No, that's really great, and fingers crossed for that. And so I guess if we scroll back a tiny bit, you mentioned that, it was after America, and I'm guessing that must have been a master's that you were doing out there.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did a master's out
that
there.
you were ready to move on from running. and
Mhm.
you had a lot of injuries out there. What was that kind of experience like? And reflecting back on it, do you think that it's something you would do again?
Yeah, so for me, going to America was a really good experience. Like I really wanted to live abroad. California is an amazing place to be. I, have lots of great friends, and I also just loved the whole NCAA system. It's just has huge crowds. The stadiums are insane. It feels very professional in loads of ways. And the way that they look after you on a team is really fun. Like it really makes running a team sport. And I really enjoyed that element. So um, I would definitely do it again. I think that the problem is that you are a bit of a business deal. So, they might want you to race more than you would like to. In the UK, you've got a lot more autonomy over your racing schedule. So I think it kind of depends on the athlete you are. If you're planning to go to the Olympics and you're kind of that caliber, is probably not the best option for you. But if you were kind of in my category where like you're decent, you're like a good athlete, but you want to have other aspects of it as well. You want to see the world, you want to have bigger experiences outside of just running as well. It's a good fit. So I would do it again, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's really interesting to hear. And so let's bring it back forwards into the present moment. So you've linked back up with your previous coach, so that's Trevor Painter, for anyone who doesn't know, and you say
Mhm.
things have been going really well. Is there anything in particular that you've kind of started doing or started doing again since you've been working with him again?
Um, yeah, so I mean, Trevor and Jenny kind of come as a duo. So Jenny Meadows is his partner, and they just have a really nice team that they've brought together, and also they're just great at what they do. So I really like them as a duo because Trevor is kind of the person you go to as your coach, but Jenny has done it all before. She's done all the races. They have just really good support systems, and I just think they have great training. So we do something that's a bit specific to me because I think I'm the only athlete that Trav looks after who isn't just a straight track athlete, because obviously I'm doing the duathlon piece as well. So my plan has cycling in it. And otherwise it's just trying to train and get to see them as much as possible for jumping in with workouts and training. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned earlier that you're quite a low mileage athlete, lots of, past issues with shin splints and stuff. So how does that play out for you? And is that something you plan to keep?
Yeah, so I actually think this week I'm gonna have my highest mileage week in I don't know how long. Has like concerned me. It's like dipped over the 30-mile mark today, I think, which is quite high for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me it's just about staying healthy. So I do hard sessions with running. I do some easy runs, and then I supplement a lot of the other stuff with the bike. So I don't do a Sunday long run. I'll do a long ride on the bike instead. And that's just kind of I think I'll have that forever now. Like I'm never going to be an athlete that's running loads of miles and not getting on the bike. Like I think that's definitely me now forever.
Yeah. Well, no, it doesn't seem needed. I mean, I think there's an increasing kind of awareness of people taking a more blended approach to running in terms of incorporating other cross-training sessions and stuff like that. But have you felt any conflict between running and cycling in terms of, where you want to focus your training attention or any impacts that one sport's maybe having on the other?
I have very tight hip flexors constantly, which sometimes can be an issue with like drills or specific circuit training, like I've noticed. But otherwise, not really. Like it's sometimes there'll be conflicts with races and things like that. Like if there's a race that I'm aiming for, then I need to just make sure that it fits with the track schedule, and I need to make sure that I'm not doing hard cycling days and hard running days on the same day or too close together. So sometimes that can be a bit of a balancing act just to spread it out. But no, otherwise I think they work quite well together.
Yeah. No, that's really good to hear. And in terms of just, I guess, your overall reflections on your athletic career to date, what would you say have been the biggest challenges that you've faced and how have you overcome them?
Um, I guess so. I do quite a lot of training alone, which
Mm.
can be a little bit tough.
Mm.
I'm able to jump in with some of the sessions in Battersea on a Tuesday night on the road with which has a really strong group of girls and some guys as well. So that's great. Um, a lot of because I've got a full-time job as well, I have to kind of adjust things around my schedule. So doing track workouts on my own is no fun. So I'll always try and make sure that I can link up with people if possible. But yeah, I do think I do a decent amount on my own, which probably, it would be great to always have people pushing you and the social side of it as well. So that's probably just a barrier.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard when you've got to do it on your own, especially when you're at the level you're at. There becomes a lack of people who actually have the speed and ability to actually be effective training partners. But that
I
the
know sometimes I have to just rate kind of call up around some guys that I know and try and convince them to hop in for some sessions, which actually they are really good at.
Yeah, no, definitely advantages of being female. Actually, you get paces when you go to park run. You can normally find there's a few guys around. Um,
Yeah, the one thing on that though, actually, I was speaking to one of my running friends about this the other day. It is frustrating, I think, that you are not allowed to get a world qualifying standard from a male pacer because so say for example at the moment you can only have a female, say you have a female pacemaker in a race and you won world qualifying time,
Mm.
then it counts. But if there's a guy who's doing the pacing for a female, then it doesn't count, which is just a female only problem. So and it seems a bit unfair because why does it matter who the pacer is? Like as long as they're doing the job and running the same lap times, that should be able to count. So um, that's one thing that's a little bit frustrating at the moment. Maybe World Athletics will change rules on that, but yeah,
Yeah.
not fun for
Yeah.
girls for now.
Well, if anyone from World Athletics is listening, please take notes because that really doesn't make any sense because it should be all about the athlete who's run it, and if a pace is running a pace, shouldn't really make any difference which gender's pacing that out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a odd one. And I guess yeah, so you mentioned the group down at Battersea. That sounds really promising. What's kind of the dynamic down there? Is it quite formal or is it quite a casual situation?
Oh yeah, they're a really welcoming, nice group. There's actually a bunch of groups that run in Battersea on a Tuesday night. The group that I jump in is a group called Cottage Club, and they just can have really good caliber athletes that come along, and everyone's really friendly. And yeah, it will just be kind of road reps. Battersea Park is good because it has no cars. So you can do, and I think it's about a 2 mile loop. So like you can do really good road reps on a Tuesday evening. So yeah, I spend a lot of time doing laps around Battersea.
Yeah, no, that's really cool to hear. And I guess finally, before we move on to the wrap-ups, you're also currently a model with Sport Talent. Is that right?
Yeah, with Forte.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'm one of the athletes on their kind of sports modeling books. So yeah, I've done some stuff with them for different cycling brands and athletic brands, which is good fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something that you could potentially leverage in the future as a potential source of income to support, athletic ambitions?
Yeah, potentially. It can be super random, the work is the issue. And as you get more into, you might find out the week before that you've got to be in Germany for a shoot, for example. But obviously if you've got a race, then that might clash. So um yeah, I mean it is definitely a great thing to have. It probably wouldn't be something that full time I would be relying on personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a really great agency and all the shoots have been really fun so far.
No, that's really good to hear. And for anyone who's maybe looking to do something similar, how would someone get involved with that?
I'll just DM them, just like send them a message, slide right in. That's kind of the case with everything. I think it's very much like you don't ask, you don't get. Like if you don't like with going to Berkeley, I literally just messaged them directly. They hadn't heard of me. They said it would be difficult to get in, and we just kind of made it happen.
Yeah.
Same thing with races that I've got coming up. I just directly messaged the event organizers, said my time. So I'm quite a big believer in that. Just go and ask and make stuff happen. You'd be surprised how often people are happy to help and yeah, your opportunities just open up a lot.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, don't ask, don't get. And so, okay, we'll move on to, some closing questions now. So, firstly, we've got a couple of listener questions. Um, I think we've covered some of them, but we've got a question as, will you be returning to the 800?
That's a good question. I thought I never would because the 800 is one of those events where you've got to do so much kind of strength and conditioning and have lots of really good power and these brutal kind of lactic sessions because that second lap really hurts. So I thought I wouldn't, but actually recently training has been going quite well. And I did a session the other day where I was doing 400s of quite low recovery, quite short recovery, and we were doing like 60, 61s. So it kind of made me think, like maybe I could return to the 800 at some point. So I actually think, yeah, I might do an 800 this season, as a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Famous last words. It might not be that fun, but
Oh no, very very exciting. Yeah, those are some very quick times there as well. And what do you think, or what piece of support, or if is there anything that you think would allow you to go to the next level?
I think definitely, having money would open up lots of options. I think things that would be great are just going regularly to camps, being in those training environments. So having kind of budgets to travel and cover all of that would be great. And for cycling as well, that would be something that's really nice, just opening up the routes that you can do by cycling abroad. I've done a lot of cycling around London at this point. So I think definitely being able to, yeah, go into those training environments more frequently would be a big benefit.
Yeah, definitely. It seems there's a massive increase in people kind of going out on training camps and getting the
Mhm.
benefits from them. But Transport for London probably love you. So small
Yeah, that's
wins.
true.
And what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
I would say do everything that you have to do, but just have fun, which sounds like a bit contradictory, I guess. But I think when I was younger, I was just kind of going through the motions and um just kind of maybe doing maybe the bare minimum is quite sounds quite harsh, but not putting in the work that I could have done. But then also have fun while you do it. So it's you're enjoying the day to day of it, and then you're also getting the results. And I think, yeah, that's one thing that I really try and do now, like just see everything as an opportunity, but do all the things that I have to do to be successful so that when I turn up on race day, I know I'm doing everything right, I'm having fun with it, and hopefully things will keep going well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what is the number one topic you feel most strongly about in sport at the moment?
Ooh, that's a good question. The number one topic I feel most strongly about in sport at the moment. I think one thing that I would just really like is just to see more of the average sports fan getting into track and field, being an athletics fan. So I have so many friends who they follow, football, they follow rugby, they even follow come like bit more niche sports like cycling or gymnastics or stuff like that. But lots of people don't even know some of the really big athletes that are coming up this year for Paris that are Team GB. And so I would love to see more people getting into the sport, maybe have what Netflix did for Formula One, turning like an average fan who knew nothing about Formula One into like a diehard. They're watching races, they're connecting with the athletes. That would be that would be amazing. So that's something that I hope happens over the next 6 months. So by the time we get round to Paris, everyone's fully invested
Yeah.
and knows the athletes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that creating that connection between, I guess, viewers and spectators and athletes is so important for, I guess, uptake and spectatorship within the sport. But
Exactly. And just getting more money into the sport in general as well, which will result in more money for the athletes, more events, the spectators, all of that good stuff.
yeah, definitely. Do you have any thoughts on maybe a really good way to get more money into the sport specifically?
But I know it must be harder than than most people think it is, because I know it's something that people have just been trying to do for a while. I think, yeah, a Netflix series,
Mm.
I don't know if that's confirmed or if it's just focusing on sprinting or what, but I think that's a really good starting point. Having more things like this, so what you're doing is great. And also just making sure that there's just lots of platforms that are sending out information about athletes. So be that Trackster doing updates with what's going on in the world every week in athletics, having athletes themselves being content creators, connecting with the younger generation, and yeah, just more events in general.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, more events. Well, no, thank you so much for coming on and, thanks for
Well,
sharing your experience and your thoughts. Yeah.
great. No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
No, no, absolute pleasure.
Okay, thanks.